Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Dumas. Good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another Persevering as an Introvert episode on Bravery Within. Well, today, guess what? We're up to episode 11 already on the introvert level. It kind of shocks me because I'm getting a lot of good response from folks. You guys are fantastic out there for letting me know that you like the show, you like the introvert episodes and stuff there, and you keep asking me to dive in a little bit further. So I thought, you know what? Hey, I'm going to try to tackle something here, and I'm going to let you know right out of the way. This is going to sound like a contradiction, but if you're an introvert, you're going to understand where I'm coming from. My extrovert friends and family that are out there that are listening to this, you're probably going to, as soon as I say the name of this episode, you're going to go, all right, Sean, you've officially just fallen over, you're done, you're finished, we don't know, you've checked out, find yourself the nearest room that gives you those white coats that hug yourself there because you have lost it. When I was writing the episode up, I had to, even when I wrote the title up, it was like, I'm not sure how people are going to take this one here, but I wanted to tackle something because relationships are tough enough as is. So, episode 11 of the Introvert series is called Maintaining a Healthy Relationship While Keeping to Yourself. All right, I can already see the puzzled looks on your face out there because I had one when I wrote it. Not gonna lie about that. But what I wanted to talk about today is relationships are difficult enough without the stress of trying to keep, basically to yourself and not lose who you are. Because what I have learned in all the relationships that I've been in, and well, that made me sound bad. I probably shouldn't have worded it that way. It's like I've been in hundreds and hundreds of relationships. Well, I haven't, but I have been in enough to learn in my 49 years of being on this big blue globe that there are little tricks to getting through a relationship. And stress is always there. But I honestly think the very foundation of any relationship is communication. And I know some people are probably going to argue with me and say love is that one or money is one or anything like that. To me, communication is the most essential to any kind of, it doesn't have to be just a loving relationship. It could be just a regular friendship. And if you don't have communication, then you really don't have much. And what you're going to run into right away, and I can hear you already saying that, hey, introverts don't like talking. Well, contrary to popular disbelief, we love to talk. I mean, I'm on a podcast, guys, and I'm an introvert. But the trick is, we're not going to talk until we feel comfortable with somebody. But another trick that you're going to have to learn is if you're interested in either as a friend or getting really serious and having a loving relationship with an introvert, you're going to want to definitely listen to this episode because this is going to hopefully give you some insights into us and how to approach us, how to basically help us through everything that we're going through. And if you respect a few boundaries, you're going to find out that we're incredible to be around because we have great senses of humor. I'll be very, very honest. I have a very quirky, very dirty sense of humor. I have a lot of fun with it. But I only do it with people that I feel comfortable with. Now, I crack a lot of jokes at work. I mean, I have my just normal jokes, and I always try to make people smile at work as much as I possibly can because, let's be honest, who wants to be at work? Not many of us. We'd rather be, doing something else, going for hikes or walks or swimming or buying shoes or whatever you guys get into. I mean, that's what you would rather be doing. Nobody really wants to work. So the hardest part anytime that I've went through a relationship, I'll be very, very honest, was trying to maintain who I was because the longer you with somebody, you start picking up their characteristics, their little quirks, their habits. I mean, some people go as far as they start writing the same. You just start picking up because if that person means something to you, then you're going to want to learn everything that there is about them. And you got to know this right out of the shotgun. Introverts, the vast majority of us, everything is locked up in a Fort Knox vault. And it is going to take some time to figure out what that combination is to get access to everything inside them. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. So if you're worried about right out of the shotgun, not knowing if you're going to be able to maintain a relationship with an introvert, just know that by the time I get through this episode, I'm hoping that some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is going to help you through it, because believe it or not, we actually want to be in relationships. We want to be together with somebody that when we come home, we can feel comfortable talking to them. We can feel comfortable opening up. Now, I think that's true for the vast majority of people, but trying to find that person is really, really difficult. Now, if you take somebody like an introvert that is always locked up, always closed off, we just don't trust very easy. We don't talk much. We don't, for the most part, we don't complain. We don't really do anything. It's even harder for somebody like us there to open up. Now, I know my extrovert family out there that's listening to this and friends. You're going, Sean, you're not making any sense. You want to be in a relationship, yet you don't open up, you don't talk, you don't communicate, you don't everything. Introverts have basically their own kind of communication, the way they slowly open up. I've had people that it's taken them years before I felt comfortable enough talking to them about some of my deep and dark secrets. And the person, I have two very, very incredible friends that I do talk to, that I know that if I say something, it's not going to be spread out to the world. It's not going to be put on, some sort of social media site and where everybody can laugh at me. But it took years before I felt comfortable enough to talk to those people and open up to them. Now, it took them equally because they're both introverts themselves. And I actually have three introverts friends that are super, super, super close to me, and it took years. One friend, let's be honest, I've known him since I was 15. So let's see here, that's 34 years? That's a long time to know somebody. And he's a truck driver, and he's fun to talk to, and we worked together for many years. I was best man at his wedding. I don't know why he picked me, but he did. But he's fun to talk to. I have another truck driving friend. His name's Brian. He was on my podcast. I've known him, I think, 15 or 16 years. And he's incredible. And he was the one that talked to us about eating on the road with a trucker. And we got to learn all kinds of neat things about, the truck driving and everything else. And I get to talk to him. And then I've got Rebecca. She was also on the podcast in episode 8 talking about her surgery. Those are the people there that I confide in, I talk to. I'm lucky enough to have my son to confide into. He's amazing. Anytime that we talk, anytime he talks to me, it's all locked up. But it took years to develop those relationships. So we're not, I'll be honest, we're not the easiest people to get to know, and we're even harder to try to get into a relationship, because the first thing that we stress out about, be honest, is you're supposed to open up in a relationship. Well, to open up means to put yourself at risk, to basically give yourself the insides and even your heart. If you care about somebody, basically what you're doing is you're taking your heart out of your chest, putting it in your hand, handing it to them, and you're trusting that they're not going to spit on it, jump on it, eat it, throw it away, whatever it is, to absolutely destroy it, because that's who you are. And for introverts, we've been, a lot of us, and I'm sure even extroverts and stuff, we've all been burned many, many times. Let's be honest. It's just the way the relationships is. Relationships change. It's just the way it is. But if you're thinking about getting involved with an introvert, you just know it's going to be an uphill battle. Relationships are an uphill battle anyway, but for us to open up, it is actually very, very terrifying for us to open up, because it's kind of like, I'm not quite sure what to make of it all. I mean, it's, I my whole life I've survived on my own. I've survived taking care of myself. I've survived by not opening up to people, by not talking to people. So it's like, okay, now I have to trust this person to open up to them and trust that they're not going to hurt me. Well, I know that invariably there's always some risk. When you jump into a relationship, either friendship or a romantic one, let's be honest. And of course there's more risk on a romantic one. But for an introvert, for us to open up, I'll be very, very honest. There's some people that I know that have some friends that it took years before I started to feel comfortable enough to talk to them about some of my innermost thoughts and my inner, desires and everything there. So for us introverts, we're just naturally locked up. But just know it's not impossible to get to know us by any way, shape, or form. And, you're probably sitting out there thinking, Sean, you were supposed to be talking about a healthy relationship, and it sounds like you're shutting everything down. Well, in a manner of speaking, I kind of sort of am in this first part of the podcast, because in the relationships that I have been in, I have done my very best to be always 100% honest and 100% upfront with them. I'm not perfect, and I'm sure if you were to ask any of my previous relationships, they would ask and say, you know what, it's bad enough I'm a Taurus on top of it all, so I'm extremely stubborn, and to get to know me is very, very difficult. I always put up roadblocks. I always put up walls. I'll duck a question if I can, because I'm just too terrified to let anybody in, to let anybody know who I am. And the sad part of it is, I picked up, because I spent 20 years in the legal industry, collections, repos, you name it, I was the bad guy. And you're probably thinking, Sean, how can you be? You're so nice and you're trying to help everybody. I am. But the problem is I needed to feed the family, and that was just a job that paid well, and I needed to make sure that my son was taken care of, my ex-wife was taken care of at the time, to put a roof over their head. I hated, doing it because it was the bad guy, and I don't like being the bad guy, I'll be honest. But what I learned over the years, I worked with a total of 4 attorneys. And if there was one commonality that they always said, it says, don't tell them if they don't ask. That was, when you go to court, don't basically give out information. You don't want to just, give them, basically hand them the court case. You don't, unless they directly ask you, you don't tell them. And I got to thinking about that, and I think I got that wound into my wiring and into my hard drive upstairs there in my brain, saying, hey, I can use that to my advantage by not letting people get to know me, because they don't directly ask the question that they want an answer to. A lot of people will just kind of graze a question. It's kind of like, what's your dislikes? And it's you would think that's a very, very straightforward answer. It is not. You can duck that question with the best of them, and most of the time I will answer a question with a question if I can absolutely get away with it. Most people don't catch that because they think that you answered that question. I learned and I'm not saying this is healthy, and you're probably going, good Lord, Sean, what is wrong with you? For everything that I have been through, I just had to learn to protect myself. I had to learn not to give out information, because every time I gave out information, it was used against me. And I got so tired of it being used against me, it was kind of like, okay, well, I just told you something that's very, very personal and very, very intimate, and here you go and, put it out there for the whole world to see. You've destroyed me, and I'm a very private person. You don't understand that about introverts. We're very, very private. When we start talking to somebody, just know there's implicit trust there. I mean, what we're trusting you with is what makes us us. Now, I know my extrovert friends and family out there that are listening. They go, what's the big deal? I talk about it all the time. And I got to be honest, I envy you guys so much for being able to be that way, because you guys are so open and so easy to be around. You're easy to talk to. You're always full of energy. You're vibrant. You're just amazing. Us introverts, we're the exact opposite. We keep everything locked up. So trying to maintain a healthy relationship can actually be very, very challenging. It's not impossible by any way, shape, or form. In fact, I've had one basically relationship with an introvert. And it was back when I was 17, and she was just locked up, closed off to it. It took a while for us to get to talk to each other. But what we did know is neither one of us had ever heard of the word introvert. We had no idea why we were the way we were. We just thought something was different with us. We were wired different. And in a matter of speaking, we are, because we're just very private. But it took us time before we started talking to each other about, different levels. I mean, you got your regular talk where you're at work and stuff. But once you start getting below that surface, things get pretty serious at that point. And we started talking and talking, and it took a while. I mean, it's kind of like a chess game. You move a little bit forward, and then you move another piece, and you never know where the player's coming at you, because they're 5-6 moves ahead of you. And that's kind of how you kind of have to be with us. You just got to kind of plan a little bit. But is it impossible to maintain? No, mainly because I honestly believe you don't need to be together 100% of the time and do 100% of the things together. You had a separate life before you met me. I had a separate life before I met you. And you still have to maintain your friends. You still need to go out. You still need to spend time with them. You still need to, you can't spend 100% of your time together. It's just not going to work because you need time, for all intents and purposes. Some people, you just need time to vent about your partner. There's just a quirk that they did, or they said something, or they did something. And to keep the relationship happy, you vent to somebody else. You vent to another friend. You get that out of you, then you can tackle more. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. It's just the way it is. I just don't believe you need to be together 100% of the time. I just don't think that's healthy on a relationship. Now, maybe it works for you. Hey, that's fantastic. I'm happy for you. Honest to God, I'm happy for you. I hope it works out for you. But one thing that I learned, like I said, is if you don't directly ask me the question you want an answer to, I'm going to duck it 99% of the time because I'm so afraid of getting to know me. Now, like I said, those 4 people that I've talked about, if they ask me a question, even if it's just grazing it, I'll tell them. I'll tell them whatever, all the information that I absolutely can. But if you're not in my little circle, I'm not going to divulge that information to you. I'll find a way to duck the question every time. And a lot of us introverts are because we're just very private. And it's not that we don't take it as we don't want to be in a relationship with you. Don't take it as we don't love you or don't care for you. It's just something that's kind of ingrained into us. We've just kind of learned that this is just the way we are. We're just very private. We're very closed off. And we're afraid of expressing our emotions and letting somebody in because we're afraid that somebody is going to walk all over us. So trying to get through an introvert can take a little bit of work. I'm not gonna spoof you in any way, but just know that when somebody's asked me a direct question, I've never lied to them. I see no reason to do that because that is going to degrade the foundation of your relationship so fast. I mean, you could spend 20 years. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen people that were together 20, 25, 30 years. You tell one lie, and it's like that whole relationship goes out the window. Then they second guess everything. And I do absolute my very best to never lie. And I can hear you out there saying, Sean, just a minute, you just contradicted yourself because you said you don't always directly answer the question, but you don't lie. And that is all spot on because I tell the answer as truthfully as I can. And it's always 100% the truth. It may be just not the way that you were thinking that it was going to come across. So when you ask a question, you're going to get an answer. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll be straight up with you and I'm going to say it the way it is. But it may not give you all the information that's available to you unless you ask the question correctly. And it's probably not a healthy way. And I probably am going to have therapists out there screaming at me saying, why are you saying this stuff? Well, that's the way I am. People have asked me to talk about me as an introvert. That's what these podcasts are about, is this is the way that I view the world. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But I'm hoping that there's some good things that are in this episode that will help you. And all I'm trying to do basically is tell you, this is kind of how you're going to have to approach an introvert. That's, essentially, it's not easy. So, I know relationships aren't easy. Don't get me wrong on that one. There's no relationship. You have to work at it constantly. You have to constantly try. You have to constantly put a good foot forward. And that's what I've done with all my relationships. And I'm sure anybody that if any of my old relationships are out there, they're probably screaming at their speakers and saying, yo, Sean, you're full of hoo-ha because you didn't try 100%. On contrary, I went above and beyond and stayed in all my relationships longer than they should have been. But I wanted to make sure that I tried and gave everything that I absolutely could to the relationship, detrimental to my health. I mean, there's been times it's cost me my health, it's cost me my son's health, just trying to make it work. But I like to, once I get to know that person, I want to talk your ear off. I'm not going to lie. And that's where you can keep yourself, because keep in mind that you don't have to know everything about the person in the first 30 seconds of your relationship. Just know, in this instant world, I understand you want all the information. It's fun to go to Google and get an instant answer. I mean, that is the coolest thing, especially when you can't remember the name of who sang a song or the name of a song or a movie or, where's the closest restaurant. I'll be honest, Google's awesome. I mean, I love it. I'm not very good at it, but, it's kind of like my social media. I'm not very good at it, and I'm sure you guys guys have already learned that about me, that it's kind of like, Sean, you could probably do a little bit better on the social media scene. I probably could, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not very good at it. Someday I'm hoping to have somebody to help me with it and tell me what I'm doing wrong, which I do hear what I'm doing wrong quite often, but I'm just hoping somebody will help me out at some point and tell me, okay, this is what you really should do. But until I get to that day, I'm just going to have to kind of muddle along. So basically what I wanted to say is there's 5 cornerstones in a healthy relationship as I see them. Now, whether I'm right or wrong, whether these match up to you, I don't know. But these are the 5 things that I look for in a relationship. The first one is communication. Like I've already been saying for the past 20 minutes in this podcast, is communication. You have to talk. And like I said, that is very, very difficult for an introvert until they feel comfortable with you. That's what it all comes down to, is we have to feel comfortable talking to you, comfortable opening up, because we're just wired differently. Now, my extrovert friends out there, bless your souls, you guys open up very, very easy. You talk all the time. You guys are amazing. I absolutely adore you guys, because you guys can jump into a relationship feet first, off you go. You guys are incredible. I wish I could do that, because I'm kind of like a toe in the water. Oop, too cold, back out. Toe in the water, oop, too cold, back out. And I do that constantly, and I admit it. But once I decide that I want to be in a relationship with you, there's no stopping me. I'm all in. There's no in between. And my son has told me that. He said, there's no in between with you. He said, you either don't do it, or you're 1,000% invested into it. He said, there is no happy medium with you. And he's absolutely correct. And I think that's my Taurus sign, because once we decide that we're going to do something, we're all in. It's just boom, here we come. And we're going to come at you with everything that we got. So once I finally started opening up to, my 4 closest friends and then my bestest friend, Alex, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to start talking to you about everything. Whether good or bad, I'm going to talk to you about it. And communication is the biggest thing for me in a relationship, because that's if you can't talk about what's bothering you, what your quirks are, what your likes, what your desires. If you don't start talking about that stuff, then how do you learn about the person? And to me, that's the best part about being in a relationship, is getting to know the person. But I don't want to know everything about them in the first 10 seconds of meeting them. I don't want to know everything in the first year, or even in the first 5 years. There's stuff that I want to learn for the rest of our relationship, and hopefully it's the rest of my life. And I'm talking about a romantic one. I don't want to know everything, because I want to always learn something new about you. I want you to surprise me by, oh, well, I used to do this, or I used to do that. Or to me, that's kind of like, it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey. It's getting to know that person. And as introverts, we have layers and layers and layers. And like Shrek said, ogres have layers. Introverts have layers. I when he said that, it was kind of like, oh man, that is so perfect for introverts, because we have lots of layers as well. And it takes time to break through those layers. No arguments there. But that's how we maintain who we are. That's how introverts maintain who they are, their personalities, everything about them. So just know you're not going to crack that shell instantly. It's going to take some time. But that's the fun part, is getting to know somebody. The second thing that I think is a cornerstone of a healthy relationship is trust. And I already hit on that. Like I said, there's people that I knew that had a 30-year relationship. There was one lie said, they threw it out the window, and all done. And it was like, how do you take 30 years and throw it out the window? There was times in all my relationships when I was lied to, let's be honest, or they did something that they shouldn't have done. But when it comes down to is they admitted to it. And it's like, okay, fine, let's move on from it. Now, I know some people aren't as forgiving as what I am. But the thing that I look at is I don't want to throw that relationship away. I don't want to take the years and years and years that I dedicated to a relationship and chuck them out the window at the first sign of trouble. I think people are so quick to get out of a relationship with one little oopsie-daisy, and it's like, oh, what happened? Now, I know there's different levels of oopsie-daisies. I'm not going to argue that point. But if it could be done to me, it has been done to me in a relationship. There isn't pretty much anything that you couldn't say that somebody hasn't done to me in a relationship. And I look at it as, okay, fine. If you want to try again, if you want to continue on, you want to, hopefully we can get past this. then I'm willing to try again. So that comes down to the trust. You break my trust again a couple times. Okay, then we might start having issues at that point, because it's kind of like, I don't think you're putting everything you can into this relationship, and I don't think it's important to you. So trust is a huge thing to me. Communication and trust. The third cornerstone for me in a relationship is reliability. If you're going to come into a relationship with me, I have my own place, I have my own money, I have my own savings, I have my own car, I have my own job, I have everything there. I mean, there's not, I have my life in order. It's not perfect, and it's probably just like a rocky domino, and as soon as you hit one, it's all going to fall down. But as of right now, everything is put together. Am I perfect? No. Am I the best at of everything? No, absolutely not. But if you're going to come at me and you want to be in a relationship with me, reliability is huge. And it's kind of like, I need to know that, if we're going to build a life together, I need to know that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And to me, one thing to a man is his word. And that's the way I was raised. And I truly believe that. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I may screw it up. I may mess it up. I may just completely throw it out the window. But you know what? I'm going to at least attempt to do the very best job that I can. I may not have done it right. I may have, went from A to D to Z to back to Y over to X and then over to M, down to D, and then finally got to B. I may have taken the longest road possible about getting it done, but I always find a way to get it done. It may not be the best way, it may not be the cheapest way, there may have been, I'm sure there's going to be an easier way, but I get it done. And reliability is huge. So if you ask me to do something, I get it done. If you ask me to, be there for you, I'm there. So reliability to me is a huge cornerstone, in a relationship as I see it, if you're going to try to jump into one with me. The fourth thing that I consider big to me is the willingness to put 100% into a relationship. Unless both partners put in 100% into this relationship, it's doomed to fail. The moment that one has to start putting in more than the other one, you get it lopsided, it's not going to work. And I understand that it's hard. It's hard to put 100% into a relationship constantly. I'm not arguing that point in any way, shape, or form. It is very difficult. But unless you're willing to dedicate everything you have to making the relationship work, then it's just not going to work. I don't even know why you'd want to jump into a relationship at that point, because it's almost doomed to failure. And all my relationships, I've always put in 100%. I don't jump in. Like I said, it takes me a while to jump into a relationship. I don't just, if somebody walk by and say, hi, oh, I'm all yours, boom, okay, we're in a relationship. That's not me. Sometimes it takes months and even years before I get into a relationship with somebody, because if I'm gonna get into a relationship with you, I'm gonna invest 100% into it, because I know that I'm an introvert. I'm gonna have to open up. I'm gonna have to talk. I'm gonna have to share what makes me me. And that terrifies me to no end. And I know I have introvert friends. It's the same thing for them. We just don't open up. So it takes time. It's not that I'm not putting 100% into the relationship, because I am, but it's going to take time for me to open up so you can learn the, innermost makings of me. The last thing that I find is a cornerstone of any relationship that I've been in and means a lot to me is sacrifice. It's how much are you willing to sacrifice for your mate? I'm not saying you have to sacrifice everything, not in any way, shape, or form. You shouldn't have to. But you have to learn to adapt. You have to learn to bend in a relationship. If you don't, if you're standing there rugged like a piece of steel and you're unbendable and unbreakable, well, then it's not going to work, because there has to be compromise in a relationship all the time. You're always going to have to compromise. And for introverts, a lot of us are stuck in a rut, a routine. I get told all the time, somebody could set a watch to me, because I'm in such a routine. And that's not wrong. To me, I need that structure to make it through. And that makes it very, very hard, because there's not a lot of people that need that kind of structure or can deal with that kind of structure. So for me to be in a relationship, that makes it even that much more difficult, because I'm willing to sacrifice whatever it takes to make, the relationship work. But it also has to come, you have to actually sacrifice a little bit to be in the relationship as well. So that way you can make it work, because that's, to me, communication, trust, reliability, willingness to put 100% into the relationship and sacrifice. Those are the cornerstones for me, because if you're willing to step up to the plate and do all of those, to me that means you're 100% vested into the relationship, and I'm willing to jump in at that point and say, okay, let's make this work. Let's share our lives together. Because remember, on this big blue globe that we call home, there is only so much time allocated to each person. We don't know how long that time is. And as I have talked about in other podcasts and stuff there, that time you can't beg, borrow, or steal for more time. You can't barter. You can't hope. You can't win the lottery and get an extra 5 years of life. It doesn't work that way. Our time is finite on this earth. And to me, if I'm willing to spend what time, let's be honest, I'm 49 years old. There is more time behind me than there is in front of me anymore, because of all the surgeries that I've went through and my health problems due to being overweight, and everything else that has went along with it there. My lifespan has been shortened. That's just the way it is. And with the family health issues that run in the family tree all the way down, that also basically slims down my time. So I have less time in front of me than I do behind me anymore. So if I'm willing to dedicate my time to you, that just know there's no greater sacrifice, there's no greater gift I can give to you than the time that I have left on this earth. And I've had people come to me and say, we had never thought of it that way. And it's like, it takes years, because let's be honest, when you're young, you think you have all the time in the world because you don't have anything to market. Once you have a kid, holy cow, it's like time speeds up, and it's like, now I'm old all of a sudden. It's like, okay, now I see the passage of time, because before 20 years could go by and it was like, whatever, that wasn't nothing. 20 years with a kid is like, wow, I have just went through an amazing amount of time. It's like, what happened to everything? I just turned around, I was 20, now I'm 40. What happened? I raised this kiddo, got him into college or trade school or whatever it is, or helped him just if they wanted to do something else. It doesn't matter what they do as long as they're out working, paying bills, just like us boring adults do. That's fantastic. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you're taking care of your family, paying the bills the best that you can, and putting food on the table. Hey, that's amazing. That's about all you can do in this world anymore, especially as difficult as things are getting. Things are so much more, they're so much tougher. And I know there's so many people out there that kind of make fun of the kids that are still living at home. Let's be honest, things are a heck of a lot more expensive and more difficult to get, to maintain, to buy, everything. I was so mad because I'll be honest, I went to my local grocery store on Sunday, just a couple days ago. And when I left, I spent $220. I had 7 bags of groceries. That's it. I about passed out. Things are so expensive that families are now living together because things are just too expensive. Kids can't move out like they used to anymore because it is so expensive. I feel so bad for them because when I turned 18, poof, man, I hit the door running. I don't think I moved out till I was 19, but I was doing a lot more. I wasn't around home much anymore. I still tried to help out around the house and stuff there, but it wasn't until I was like 19 and out. A lot of my friends hit it 18, 19 as well. Out they went. These days, these poor kids, they don't have that option. And there's a lot of families that can't make it without the extra income from their kiddos working. And it's a sad thing to say, but that's just the way it is. So for me, back to the relationships, I kind of got off track. Sorry. There's a few things that I've always remembered about my mate during a relationship. And this helps because it allows me, once I remember this, because everybody comes to a relationship with baggage. They've been hurt. They have been, basically jaunted. They have been, destroyed, and they basically need somebody to help pick up the pieces, put them back together, and continue on. We all have broken pieces, and we all need help there. And that's where introverts kind of come in, because we're very, very good about it, because we're very closed off. We're used to taking care of ourselves and building ourselves up. So, we can actually be really good in a relationship for that reason, as long as you give us time to open up and be, learn who you are and allow us to basically be who we are, so we don't lose who we are. We have to keep that core explore all the time. But some of the things that I try to remember when I'm in a relationship about my mate is no one is perfect. We all ups. We're all human. It just the way it is. No one is. We all make mistakes. We've all messed up. Let's just admit that. And once you can admit that, then it's like, okay, we can deal with anything else. Another thing that I always try to remember is we all have things in our past that we're not proud of. We've all done things in our past that we're not proud of. And it doesn't matter how, basically good you are. At some point, you make a decision that it's not good, because sometimes getting through life, you have to make tough decisions to whether it's good or bad, just to survive. That's what it comes down to. So I always try to remember that about my mate is we've all done things in the past. We all have things in the past that we're not proud of. And I try to remember that. And I want to learn about those things. That's the neat part about introverts. We have those things too. We just don't talk about them much. But once we start talking about it, holy guacamole, we're going to talk your ear off. Once I trust you, man, it's just like the podcast here. I'll talk your ear off. It just takes time. We all have scars and pain from previous relationships that we haven't worked through or moved on yet. And I try to remember that because everybody heals at a different speed. Everybody takes their time, basically locking up the pain or processing the pain or anything like that there. You don't just jump out. I mean, I know there's plenty of people out there that jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, but that's because they don't want to deal with the pain or the loss. That is a lot to handle. And us introverts are actually pretty good at it because we've got lots of them. Like I said, we just lock it up and we'll start talking to you about it. Just give us a little bit of time. One thing that is, once people start opening up to me, I never use the past against them. I've had that thrown in my face. I couldn't tell you how many times when I talk to somebody and I've opened up to them, and then they go and they take that and they throw it back in my face and use it against me. It's like, that is an old relationship. I am trying to rebuild. I'm trying to be a better person, take the high road, and be the best person I can for you in this relationship. So please don't use the past against me. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Last time I checked, none of us, we can all apply for the position of God, but I don't think any of us are going to get it. Let's just be honest. So you have to remember those things. Forgiveness goes a long way. I've always done everything in my power to forgive my mates. Let's be honest. Even my ex-wife, we had lots of things. I have no doubt I screwed up a bunch of stuff in the marriage. I'm not arguing that point. I'm not perfect. But one thing that I always tried to do, even now today, because we've been divorced now for, I think, 13 years, is to forgive her for some of the things. We both, oopsie-daisy, there's no doubt about it. But I don't want to hold it against her. We have a son together. I want her to be able to still come talk to me if she needs things. I still want to be there because my son, that's his mom. And I want to make sure that she always has a safe place to go if she needs to talk. And I know most, divorced couples can't be that way. I'm not saying that everybody can, but that's one thing that I try to do in all my relationships is I try to forgive as much as I can. Now, part of my weight loss, journey and everything there that I've learned over the past 20 months is forgiveness is huge, because I used to hold a lot of grudges. I used to just I would not forgive anybody. I would just, when a Taurus digs in their heels, good luck moving them, because there's almost nothing that will move them. And that's the way I maintained my life constantly. And I realized the only person I really was hurting was myself. And it kept me from excelling at my weight loss journey, because it was kind of like, it would make me mad, then I would have to go eat my feelings, and then I would gain weight. I would feel guilty about it, and then I would gain more weight, and it's just a vicious circle. So one thing that I learned is forgiveness is huge. And another thing is, and none of my relationships can say anything different to this. I have never taken any of them for granted. I know how much they meant to me, and I know that we were in a relationship, so I did 100% of everything that I could, and it probably wasn't enough, because obviously, since I'm single, it probably wasn't enough, but I never took them for granted. I never put them on the back burner. If they needed something, I was there. If they called, I devoted all my time. They come home and they were mad, or we were at work and they were mad and they needed to talk, I stopped whatever I was doing and I was there for them. Because remember, you can't beg, borrow, or steal any more time on this earth. So you don't know how much time you have left. I mean, God forbid, you go to bed mad, and then the next day one of you ends up getting injured, or God forbid, gets called home and you're no longer here on this earth, and then you have all that hurt, and then you have all these feelings, and it's just like, oh, there's nothing you can do with them. So don't take them for granted, especially introverts and stuff there, because once you start taking us for granted, bam, I hit the high road at that point. It's like, if you're going to keep me on the back burner and not make me a number one priority, I mean, I understand, sometimes you're going to get into a relationship with a mate and they have kids. Of course, the kids come first. There's no doubt about it. My kid comes first over everything. Nobody can tell me different. Papa Bear will set you straight if you think you're going to step in between me and my son. That's just what it is. And I have proven that for all the years that he has been alive, all 28 years. And I just don't take my mate for granted. I don't put them on the back burner, and they're always, the most important person in my life. So, I mean, there's many more things that I could talk about, in a relationship. Just know that, if you're going to get into a relationship with an introvert, we want to be, honest to God, we want to be in a relationship with you. You just have to give us time to open up. And I keep saying that because I keep having to tell people that right there, is you have to give them time to open up. It's not that we don't want to be in, we want to be with you, but you have to allow us, no matter what you learn, no matter how long you're in the relationship, you have to give them space to recharge. We burn out really, really easy. Our social batteries go dead so very fast. You have to give us time to recharge. You have to give us alone time. It's not that we're trying to go out and we're not trying to cheat on you. We're not trying to find somebody else. What we're trying to do is recharge. And if you don't give us that time to recharge, you're basically dooming the relationship right there, because we have to have it. And that's the problem that I've ran into with my other relationships, is you don't have to communicate all the time. You don't have to do 100% of everything together. You don't have to be together 100% of the time. And that's something, because remember, introverts are very independent. We're used to being alone, and we like doing things alone, by ourselves, away from you. It's not that we don't want to be with you. I just need you to understand that. But as long as you allow us to charge up on our own, be alone. I mean, we all have hobbies. Allow us to do our alone hobbies. You have your own hobbies. Go do your own thing. I mean, that's the best part, is because you talk to other people, and then what you have is you have new conversation to talk to when you come back together. And that's the cool part, is this is what I did, or I talked to this friend, or I talked to somebody I hadn't seen in forever, or I helped this person in the supermarket that was having a hard time. And as long as you give an introvert that room to breathe, you're going to have an amazing relationship. And just know, you're not going to get to know everything about them instantly. It's just not going to happen. It's going to take years to get to know that person. And please don't get mad at them when they all of a sudden say, hey, did you know this about me? Don't think that they're trying to hide it from you. Don't think that they're trying to, not let you know everything about them. There's been many times when I've been in a relationship where a certain, we're all of a sudden doing something and it triggers a memory. A smell triggers a memory, or just, a thought, or a song. A song is a big one for me. Let's be honest, I'm a huge 80s nut. So when I hear the songs, that's 40 years ago, guys. All that memory, it takes time to basically kick back in. And there's been times where I would tell somebody that, hey, I remember this memory, and this is what I did, or I did that, or I talked to this person, and they go, well, why didn't you tell me that before? I was like, because I didn't think of it before, because nothing triggered the memory to come back. No, you're just trying to hide things from me. You're just trying to keep things from me because you don't want to tell me everything. And right there, I'm going to be honest with you, is going to shut down an introvert right there, and you're going to take 10 steps backwards right out of the shotgun. Let me tell you, anybody that has told me that, they have shut me off. I don't tell them anything, and I got to tell you, I go right back to Fort Knox. You have just slammed that vault shut, is what you have done. It's not that I'm intentionally trying to hide things from you. It's just, we are, like Shrek said, ogres have layers. Introverts have layers. And the moment you start shutting us off and accusing us of not telling you certain things, you are going to shut your introvert down, and you're going to doom your relationship right out of the shotgun. And that may sound harsh, but I'm telling you that from my point of view, and if that's what you're going to do to me, I guarantee you I'm hitting the high road and I am gone, because what you're telling me is you don't trust me. and you think I'm lying to you. And I can tell you what, if you don't trust me, I am gone the same day. I don't even give you a chance to make up for it. You can break my trust, fine. But if you tell me that you don't trust me, flat out, done. We're finished. I will walk away. I don't care how many years. I'm not going to give you another shot. There is no nothing. Because once I walk away from a relationship, we are done. You had your chance at me and you threw it out the window. You took me for granted. And guess what? I'm not coming back. You can use whatever you want to say. You could tell me, the moment you tell me that you're done, walk away from me, I'm done with you, done. Fine. If that's what you want, I'm going to respect your wishes. I may not be happy about it, but I'm going to respect your wishes because that's what I do. But if you think you're going to come crawling back to me and say, oh, that's not what I said, or that's not what I did, well, guess what? I have a horrible memory, but when I get burned, oh, that one sticks, and there's no changing that one there. So just know that the moment you start basically saying that stuff to your introvert partner, saying that, well, why didn't you tell me? I don't trust you. Why didn't you withholding things from me? You're going to shut them down. And I can't stress that enough, is be very, very careful with your wording. And that's one thing with me. It's not just the wording, it's the tone of your voice and how you say it. And I read on all of that stuff is when you're talking to me. So that's just way us, and not all of us introverts are. I am not trying to classify every introvert as that way, and I don't want my introvert family mad at me, but I'm telling you from my point of view as an introvert, that's what I do. And I know I have a lot of introvert friends, and they are all pretty much the same way. So if you think you're going to jump into a relationship, just be really careful. You can have a healthy relationship. Absolutely. Just give them space, give them alone time, and allow them to come out on their own. Don't push them. And remember, this is going to take time. It's going to take months and sometimes years before you crack that shell, before you get to start rolling back all the layers that makes them. You have to let them be themselves. You have to let them hang on to their core and not tell you everything right out of the shotgun. And trust me, if you can give them this kind of room where you can trust them, you are going to have somebody that's going to adore you, going to love you, going to take care of you. They will be there every step of the way for you. Once we realize that we can trust you and you're not going to shut us down and run us through the mill, I'm 100% dedicated to you at that point. Once I decide that I'm all in a relationship, I'm all in. But it takes time to get to that point, and that's the way most of us introverts are. So yes, you can still be closed off and still have a healthy relationship. It's just, to me, like I said, communication, trust, reliability, willingness to put 100% into a relationship and sacrifice. Those are the cornerstones that I see in a relationship. Everything else I can deal with. I can work with everything else. It's no big deal. Just know that I need my time to go for drives in the hills alone. I need time to listen to my own music alone. I need to be able to work out on a project alone. That's just the way it's going to be. Remember, you don't need to be together 100% of the time. You don't need to do 100% of everything together. I know there's some people out there, some couples that do, and that is amazing. I don't know how you do it, to be honest. But it's amazing. If you can make it work, absolutely go for it. Just know that, you're not going to learn everything about an introvert in 30 seconds. It's just not going to happen. That's just the way we are. If you can understand all of that, yes, you can have a healthy relationship and still keep to yourself. And to me, that's the way I see me as an introvert. And I know I have a lot of friends that are the same way. It takes time, takes years for us to open up. So all I can tell you, to my extrovert family and friends out there, you guys are wonderful. I love you all. And if you're thinking about getting involved with an introvert person, just know we're not going to open up to you right away, and it's going to take time to crack that shell. But once you do, and you put the time in and everything, you'd be surprised on how amazing and how full of love, how understanding, how dedicated we are to you and to the relationship. And as long as you give us the time to recharge and do our own thing, you will absolutely get a healthy relationship. You will absolutely have I'm hoping the best romantic relationship of your life. And to me, if you can give me those things, oh man, I'm 100% dedicated to you. I'm all in. I'll be honest with you. So I'm noticing by the time on my screen, I'm out of time again. Feature that. I always seem to be running over there or pushing the mark there. So thank you so much for listening. I hope there's something in this podcast. Just know that my answer to maintaining a healthy relationship while keeping to yourself is a huge yes. Absolutely, you can do it. That's just the way our introverts are. Just know that, yes, it can be done. It just takes time. Allow them to recharge their batteries alone and do alone things. You will be fine. You'll have an amazing relationship. So if you like the episode, thank you so much. Like it, follow, subscribe on my YouTube page. I'm getting more people to jump on board with that one there. It's available for comments. Go to my Facebook page, like the page, and follow. All the updates are kept on my Facebook page. It's about the only one I know how to run. I have a Twitter, I have Reddit. I'm not very good at them, I'll be honest, and I'm sorry if those are the platforms you use. I am trying to learn. I honest to God am. I am trying so hard to learn how to use these things, but I spend between 20 and 25 hours a week just doing the podcast stuff and then to try to do all the social media stuff, and I don't know how to do it. Oh, I get in so much trouble. So, but I still, please, if you have a question or a comment, send it to me in an email, seangmorris@gmail.com. But please subscribe to my page, share, comment, tell everybody about it. I hope that you like it enough to tell your family and friends. And that's all I can ask for you to do. Thank you so much for listening. So, before we go, as always, I have a dad joke of the day to end the podcast. So, if you're ready to go, here's some of the best jokes you're ever going to hear. Do you know how the barber won the race? Because he knew of a shortcut. I love that one. It's so awesome. Thanks so much for listening. You guys are amazing. I love all of you guys out there. Thank you for listening to my podcast and making me a part of your life for the next 50 minutes. That has been fantastic. Thank you so much. And as always, all my love and support, Sean.